This has been like the first time that like governance has been like fun in what feels like years. And I think, frankly, like the competitiveness of the proposals is going to deliver like a really awesome outcome for the Hyperliquid community, regardless of what happens.
Hey everyone, welcome to Unchained, your no-hype resource for all things crypto. I'm your host, Laura Shin. Mantle is pioneering blockchain for banking, a revolutionary new category at the intersection of TradFi and Web3. Follow Mantle_official to learn more. So I'm here with Nick Van Eck, CEO and co-founder of Agora, and Bhau Kotecha, co-founder of Paxos Labs. Welcome, Nick and Bhau.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So in case you were busy, touching grass this weekend, or you're living under a rock, there was a frenzy when the Hyperliquid Foundation announced that it was going to have voting for the USDH ticker in Hyperliquid for a stablecoin. So that prompted a slew of proposals over the weekend, including by both of your companies, Agora and Paxos. And, quick glance, they seem to be the ones that are getting the most engagement. There's some others that also have high engagement, but just for listeners who, like I said, if you happen to actually enjoy your weekend, you may not know that basically there's deadlines coming up. So that's the reason why there's a lot of activity about this right now. So the first deadline is the proposal deadline, which is September 10th at 10 UTC. Validators then have 1 day to declare which proposal they're going to be backing. And so then users will have until September 14th to move their stake to a validator that supports the proposal that they would like to vote for. So, Nick and Bhau, why don't we just start with this one basic question before we dive into your proposals? Why is the USDH ticker so important here? Because that's literally the only thing this competition is about, is that particular ticker. So, Nick, why don't you start?
Yeah, I think the reason why it's so important is one of the few it was the only ticker that was actually like reserved by the team, and I think this is really going to be the community aligned stablecoin, and so there is a huge opportunity for an issuer or one of the proposers to really take part in offering a public good to the Hyperliquid community, which is one of the most active and engaged communities in the entire space. Right. And I think one that everyone, certainly at least on this call, believe is going to continue to grow and be a large part of, transforming financial markets. And so, it's just a ticker, but I think there's an opportunity to do something really unique that is, aligned with the Hyperliquid, ethos and community. And that's certainly why we're interested in it. I imagine Bhau feels similarly, but we'll let him, opine.
Yeah. I mean, I think Nick's spot on. Right. Like, I think the community alignment is there. I think having launched stablecoins previously at Paxos, having launched products previously, I especially for something like a crypto native ecosystem, being able to build with your users, I think is so powerful. Right. We were going to go work in Hyperliquid no matter what. We were going to launch products in Hyperliquid. We already have products live in Hyperliquid. But the ability to actually build with community feedback is such a powerful mechanism. And really this proposal has enabled that, right? If we've gotten more feedback in the last, 48 hours, which I know have been fun for Nick and I, then we can possibly get on any other product cycle, right? And so being able to get that close to the community, build with them and get that feedback has been amazing. And look, we want to build a product that really resonates with the community, is Hyperliquid aligned, and this is an amazing way to do it. It's not that you can't do it with another ticker, but this is a way that you can kind of really get close to the community and build what resonates with them.
And so for both of you, if your team does not win, you will still build a stablecoin in the Hyperliquid ecosystem, or what would be your plans then?
Of course. Yeah, I was asked this question earlier today. Of course, I don't think there's an option not to. Right, this is one of the most active ecosystems in the space, and you need to be here. Right, it's the number one trading ecosystem. So obviously, if we don't win USDH, we'd have to figure out what we want to do, whether it's something with AUSD or other white labeled partners that are either active in the ecosystem today or would want to come to the ecosystem. So it'd be a little bit of a TBD, but I think we would 100% be there.
Yeah, we're going to be there. Funny enough, I believe it was Thursday night or Wednesday night. We did buy a USD ticker in a Hyperliquid auction, and so it just feels lucky coincidence that the very next day that they dropped this. Maybe could have saved me some money there, but it's all good. And so, I mean,
That's how it goes.
Yeah, that's how it goes, right? It's like anyways. I believe it was Wednesday night or Thursday night. We bought a USD ticker on Hyperliquid auction, and we've been planning this. We've been working towards this, and then Friday night, we had a fun evening and weekend for the entire team. But yes, to answer your question, we're going to build an Hyperliquid. We're going to keep building. We already have a team that's been building there and plan to continue to do so.
Okay, so you've got something in your back pocket. Can I ask which ticker it was that you bought?
I won't share it yet.
Okay, my guess would be USDP, but anyway, okay. So let's now talk about the proposals. Why don't we'll start with Nick. So go ahead and, for those of you who missed this on Twitter or Discord, go ahead and explain what you guys are proposing.
Yeah, so maybe I'll even start with sort of our whole process, right? I was on my way to work on Friday morning, got a DM that the ticker was going to be opened up. I had a stacked Friday, so I actually started working on the proposal Friday night. And at the time, it was the one proposal there was the sort of pre-baked native markets one. And I think Bhau will appreciate this as well. But there's about 5 to 6 billion of USDC on Hyperliquid today, right? This is one of the largest exchanges on planet Earth, certainly when it comes to crypto. And you need infrastructure that can scale. And so, one of the first value adds that we thought that we could provide is having institutional infrastructure built for scale on day one, right? And what I mean by that is having GSIB banking partners, right? So State Street, which is 49 trillion in assets under custody, is our cash custodian. And then VanEck, which is, a multi-decade, 100 billion plus asset manager, manages the reserves, right? And so you have blue chip institutions that makes this an infinitely scalable stablecoin, but also is safe and secure. Something that we also have believed at Agora since day one is that digital dollars should be public goods. That's actually what our original slogan was. And so we proposed 100% revenue go back to the community. And then, lastly, I would say is we wanted to build this coalition first, right? Obviously we power, I think fairly robust institutional grade issuance, but there's plenty of other partners that you can bring to really expand USDH's reach. And it's why we reach out to Rain, Layer Zero, and a number of others. We keep getting inbounds on people that want to be supportive of this. I think they reached out to us and said yes because they trust us and respect us. But they should work with whoever I think ultimately wins this, right? And so we were sort of coalition first, and that's really the proposal that we put forward. Happy to dig into any of those points, but I think right, it's being institutional first and safe, driving maximum value back to the community, and then being coalition first.
Yeah, one comment I'll make is just, I heard this, honestly, I'm pretty sure I heard this on the chopping block, and it was Tarun just saying something he traveled to Argentina or Turkey, or I forget where, but he said something like, oh, I found out that USD lost significant market share after the SVB incident. And so, I understand that point you made about just you want big players, you don't want anything to go wrong. You want people to have utmost trust in this particular asset. And then the last thing I'll say is kudos to State Street. You would imagine that a really old company like that would be super slow moving, but I'm guessing you reached out on Friday. You're like, hey, this thing just dropped.
I will say, to be fair, when your family runs a $130 billion asset manager that parks all their money at State Street, they say yes to some things, right? So we've been using them for a long time. But your point about the USDC DPEG is real, right? I mean, you saw how that impacted Circle for years, right? And I actually, in my prior career before starting Agora, I was on the venture side, and was very close to many founders, whether they were building Lemon in Argentina or other fintechs, and they had actually pushed their users to use USDC because they had perceived it to be safer and got a lot of blowback, right? And so there is real damage. I think these are some of the things that people don't in the weed things that people don't think about with stablecoin issuers. They're like, oh, it's like money in a bank. Like, how hard could it be? And there's actually a lot of things that are, especially challenging, and that I think Bhau knows as well from his experience at Paxos. And that's why I think we wanted to really like make some of those points in our proposal, because look, even if we don't get chosen, we care about the community. We want this to be a successful launch, and like those things matter.
Okay, so Bhau, go ahead and describe the Paxos Labs proposal.
Sure. Yeah. And so I think, when we first looked at the proposal, the three things that stood out to us were Hyperliquid first, Hyperliquid aligned, and compliant. Those are the three things that stood out to us. And, I'll kind of take them one by one on why, where we thought we were a perfect fit. And I'll start with the last one. From a compliance standpoint, right, Paxos has been doing this for over a decade. We are a regulated state trust in New York. We're obtaining an OCC federal trust. We are one of the only MiCA compliant issuers out of the EU. We're issuing out of Singapore. We're issuing out of the UAE. We have been doing regulated, safe stablecoin issuance for longer than anyone in the industry. And to Nick's point, like, I think this stuff gets glossed over, right? This is the most important part of building a stablecoin. Are the funds safe? Are the customers' funds safe? And doing that with partners and people that have done it at scale before, I think is really important. And we've done that across a bunch of different customers. We work with the best banking partners, the best custodians globally. We have relationships with every single regulator across the world, really, many of whom use our standard as their template for what new companies wanting to issue out of the jurisdiction should do. So we've been doing this for a long time at a really high standard. And so, our compliance, the compliance checkbox, I will say, is ticked. From a Hyperliquid first, Hyperliquid aligned perspective, some of the origins of Paxos Labs, right? Over the last couple of years, we've launched several stable coins out of Paxos, including PayPal's PYUSD, including USDL, which is a yield-bearing stable coin, and USDG, which was a consortium stable coin with Robinhood, Kraken, Anchorage, OKX, several others. We learned a lot. And just what we learned was getting to like day one of issuance is really hard. Getting the regulation right, like all the stuff Nick talked about, all that stuff is really hard to get to day one. But there's a whole journey you need to go on after that. It's like, how do you actually grow in crypto native ecosystems? How do you actually build compelling products and utility around stablecoins? And so this is something we were thinking about really deeply last year as we kind of went through this stretch of stablecoin launches. And this is where Chad, who's the CEO of Paxos, and I kind of like put our heads together and said, hey, we really need a team and a business unit that's focused on this, growing in crypto native ecosystems. And that's where we kind of started to build the origins of Paxos Labs. At which point we got to meet a team based out of New York here called Molecular Labs that has been building in Hyperliquid since day one. They launched two structured products. One is LHype, the other is WHLP, which are two primitives that power the Hyperliquid ecosystem since the very first day of Hyper EVM launch.
Yeah, and one is looped hype and the other's wrapped hype.
Yep. Exactly. And it's not just the fact that there's two things that really appeal to us about this team. Like, one, we clearly saw Hyperliquid as like kind of an up and coming ecosystem that was going to be a cornerstone of kind of this like merging of traditional finance and decentralized finance. If there was a chance of any platform actually kind of coming into the world that we're used to playing in on the Paxos side, it was Hyperliquid. So it was that. But two, like they were really building out a lot of our thesis. Our thesis was, yes, you can have a stablecoin. Yes, you can have native assets, but you actually need to build compelling experiences and products around them. And so that's when we decided to bring that team in. And a lot of that DNA is now in Paxos Labs. Obviously, we've got now $100 million of TVL across these two Hyperliquid products today, right? And so we have been building, we have DNA of this team, from this team in the Hyperliquid ecosystem, and bringing them and combining that expertise, that experience in Hyperliquid with Paxos's history of compliant issuance. I think we really kind of like tick all the boxes, if you will, for what Hyperliquid and the foundation's looking for.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the commentary I see on Twitter a lot is people talk about this like Hyperliquid alignment. I'd be interested to hear a little bit more on like why you think that is so important, or why it is that you see like people kind of noting that this is something that they would, like a criteria that they would use to evaluate these proposals.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they've built an incredible community and ecosystem, right? And when you have something amazing, you want to maintain it. And I totally understand it. And that's something that I appreciate about how they operate, right? They have a certain set of values and ethos in Hyperliquid, and they want to maintain them. And I think that's really important. And like anything that gets off the ground and is successful, it has a secret sauce, right? And for them, some of that secret sauce is how deeply involved their community is, and they want to keep that going. And I respect it.
And Nick, you didn't really talk about that in your proposal, like alignment with Hyperliquid. So can you describe, how you think the Agora proposal shows alignment?
Yeah, so I think for us, right, it's like having native deployment on day one, but it's also like maximum revenue back to the community, and also having active governance, right? Something, one of the results of this being sort of sprung on us so quickly is like actually a lot of like the fine print wasn't decided. And so like a lot of our proposal has like even evolved within the last 24 hours where like I've actually thought quite a bit of like, how do you actually really, so many crypto communities try to solve like for like effective governance. And I actually think this is like a perfect opportunity to have like a reoccurring governance vote on like a quarterly basis. Like, okay, what do we actually do with 100% of the revenue from this ecosystem token? And so that I think, is one way to express alignment. Another one is we've actually, we've spoken with the Hyperliquid team in the past, right? Even before Hyper EVM about what bringing like a white label and native stablecoin to the ecosystem could look like, because you are giving up hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And then I'd say like beyond that, a lot of people like to attach, I guess, my family businesses to my activities, whether or not I work there or not. But like the trading team and the VC team there has been very active in the ecosystem. I'm trying to get them to open their mouths, and hopefully getting on the phone with the boss later today so that they can actually talk more about what they've been doing, because they are very involved. They talk to teams every single day, and so hopefully more info can be coming out after this, because he was just calling me as we were getting going. But I think ultimately, the alignment will be expressed in how successful USDH is in delivering revenue and value back to the ecosystem. Right. I think one of the innovative ways that we can do that is through actually growing it beyond Hyper EVM. Right. So like that's why I mentioned Rain and some of these other providers. MoonPay is working closely with us, and we're figuring out how we can implement builder codes and like sort of light that up across all of the wallets that they support. Right. Because it's like, we know that USDH will be successful within the Hyperliquid eco. How can we go outside of that ecosystem and expose new users, whether it's retail, traders, institutions, to this asset and to these markets?
Okay. So yeah, I mean, you guys started to go into one of the differences that at least people are talking about quite a bit, which is the difference in the rev share that you're proposing. So Nick, as you mentioned, you guys are proposing that you would offer 100% of the revenues back to the Hyperliquid ecosystem. So, when I was just thinking about this, I was like, okay, so this business is going to spend a lot of time on building out this USDH, but then they're going to literally make zero money from it. So what's in it for Agora? Like, why would you do that?
Yeah. So I think what's in it for like me personally is like, I got into crypto and digital assets because I think this is a once in a generation transformation of market infrastructure and money, right? I think Hyperliquid and the Hyperliquid ecosystem is like the place for that. And so if like we can spend like our time like building a public good for this ecosystem, like that is time well spent, right? I think beyond that, obviously, like this is like the Super Bowl. A lot of eyes are going to be on this. Like if we do a really great job, like that'll translate into success in other aspects of our business. And we have other products and other lines of business that can subsidize this, right? Like we are already an issuer. We have the entire stack built, right? And so spinning up an additional asset, on this infrastructure is a marginal cost to us that we're willing to eat. And, again, like I said, like a lot of people that we know, whether they're on our team or friends or, peer firms, are involved in the ecosystem already. And so it's something that they want to do because they're part of the community and feel like this is like a public good, right? So that's why.
And would you propose that like just in perpetuity, 100% of the revenues go back? Because
I think absolutely. And you just have quarterly governance votes on, okay, do we buy back Hype? Do we give it to the assistant fund? Do we give it to stakers? We don't want to make any money on this.
Interesting. Okay. So Bhau, your proposal differs. You are proposing that, or Paxos really is, Paxos Labs is proposing that you'll share 95% of the revenue. So explain why you chose that figure.
Yeah, totally. And like, I think A lot of it is like, I believe incentives are really powerful. And, I think no matter how much you care about an ecosystem or how much you're aligned, it really is hard to keep investing in something that has no impact to your business whatsoever. And again, what we learned launching all the stablecoins we launched over the years at Paxos is, yeah, we can launch a new stablecoin with like minimal cost. Like we can do it, no problem. It's everything that comes after, right? It takes time to go actually integrate with everyone. There's BD spend, there's marketing spend. We want to hire people. We want to put all of our weight behind this asset, right? And so can we do it for nothing? Totally, right? But I think like the goal isn't just issuing it. We think this is going to be the biggest stablecoin in the world. Like, and how do we do that? Well, it's like, hey, Circle has 1,000 people, right? And I'm not saying I want to go hire 1,000 people. I'd really never hope to God I never get to that world. But it's like, hey, like we need to staff the team. We need to go put people out there. We need to actually invest in this business. And so, it's not so much like I'm going to take that dollar and put it in my pocket. It's I want to reinvest. I want to make this great. I want to make this big. Like, I don't want to just issue it once and then be like, yay, we did it. Like, I want to make this a massive asset. I want to make it the biggest asset in the world. And that takes investment, time, and incentives. The other thing I'll add to this is like, there's been a lot of debate around, like, to Nick's point, like, where does it go? Does it go to stakers? Does it go to assistant funds? We are, ears wide open for like listening to the community in terms of like where those funds go. But I will say, one other learning from our history of launching stablecoins and trying to scale them is that people don't just like switch their stablecoin provider overnight. You need to provide incentives to all the ecosystem players that are going to make USDH big, right? And there are some ways to do it. You can do the assistance fund, and presumably everyone's a hype holder, and that's great. But I think we need a balance there. And in my ideal world, right, it's like, hey, maybe we start with a 95%, and then some of that is going to the assistant fund, and some of it's going to actually system integrators, right, like the integrators and the platforms that are actually adopting USDH. And then let's say over some time period, we get that to 99% is going to the assistant fund. Amazing. Like, we have achieved our goal of making this a $500 billion asset, $1 trillion asset. Awesome. Like, let's send it all to the assistant fund. And that's kind of the thing I would encourage the community to think about is like, what does it take to make it really big? Not just what does it take to issue it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's kind of interesting. So Nick, the way that you described yours, it's almost like the Uber model of we're just going to kind of throw whatever money we have into just like getting market share. That's sort of like, it's basically a pretty common tactic.
I think that's like a fair way to articulate it, right? Because we already have other lines of business and are profitable in other ways. So it's like we can reinvest profits from other activities of the business into the ecosystem, right? And like something that we committed to is like we can seed this with 10 million from our balance sheet from the get-go. We have partners that have called us over the last 24 hours and said, hey, we can set up a vault, and we'll put 9 figures in like from day one to seed this. So, I think that's like one of the benefits of having a broader business too, is like, we can run some things on a public good basis. And it was our original slogan, right? Is digital dollars are public goods. And we have a lot of like OG DeFi DNA. One of my co-founders, Drake, was, the lead dev at Frax before he started Agora with me. And, they felt similarly. So kind of want to bring that to bear here.
Well, on the flip side, I also see Bhau's point where, just at companies, they kind of like will do, their financial analyses and be like, oh, well, this unit's not really performing. So I can see it both ways. I don't know if I necessarily like see one as being like, this is more Hyperliquid.
I think they're just about the same. 95, yeah. 100%. They're just about the same. 5% isn't that much, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think we, both, at least Bhau and I are aligned, that we want to get it as close to 100% as we possibly can. Yeah. Right. And so I think that's why it's like, if you look at any other proposal, right, if they're not doing 95 to 100, they almost shouldn't even be in the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say your team wins, for both of you. Describe what it is that you would try to do within the first 6 months. What would be your game plan for ensuring that USDH becomes the top stablecoin in the Hyperliquid ecosystem, that it can take on USDC, which, as we mentioned, it's got, I think it's like $5.4 billion in Hyperliquid right now. Tether is a distant second at 189 million. So yeah, I'd be curious to hear what you are thinking. And I know you guys just spun these proposals up for the last weekend. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this.
Yeah. So I think the first part of my answer will be boring but pragmatic. which is in the first 6 months, we got to make USDH as liquid and cost efficient as USDC is today in Hyperliquid. Make sure that the current users of Hyperliquid can have the same or better experience with USDH as they do with USDC today. And what does that mean? That means on and off ramps. That means liquidity pools. That means all the things that we need to do to make access to USDH as simple as possible, as seamless as possible, right? That I think is the entire focus in the beginning of this project, making sure the users can get into USDH in the most cost-efficient way possible, least friction way possible. From there, right, I think it's continuing to go through the entire ecosystem and working with all the platforms, all the different protocols to ensure that they are kind of moving to USDH and building network effects within Hyperliquid. And from there, I think we really lean into one of Paxos' strengths, right? We have a global enterprise distribution network, not just from a stablecoin perspective. There's over 100 partners that are integrated with Paxos stablecoins today, but our crypto brokerage as a service product, right? Again, this is not an exchange that people come to like we're like fighting for end users. This is a infrastructure product, right? So PayPal, Venmo, Interactive Brokers, Nubank, Mercado Libre, many other large FIs use our brokerage product. And a big part of our pitch here is like, we're going to bring Hyperliquid to everyone that doesn't have access to Hyperliquid today, right? We're going to go integrate the Hype token to our brokerage offering. We're going to open up access to billions of users. We're going to bring USDH to all these users. And we're going to help build utility around that, right? And so I think really like the core of our proposal is like, yes, let's keep what makes Hyperliquid great. Let's keep it great. But how do we like 10x this? How do we 100x this ecosystem by connecting it to this kind of massive network that Paxos has? And that's not just from our crypto brokers product, but hey, since we're going to be the issuer of both USDH and PYUSD and USDG that's being used by all these massive enterprises, well, guess what? We can make those one-to-one interoperable with no slippage, right? And now Hyperliquid and USDH token get day one network effects of building with Paxos, right? And so I think that's like the phase 3. That's like the really exciting stuff where we bring Hyperliquid to the masses. But the honest answer is the first 6 months will be like, how do we get liquidity and swaps to be as tight as possible, as efficient as possible, and make sure everyone can get access to high quality stablecoin and Hyperliquid?
And just for me to understand the network, so you guys have your existing stable coins. So are you just saying that like, I'm going to make it up like because I actually don't know the specifics, but like, are you saying that the different partners that you have used for those stable coins, like you're going to would it be, I don't know, like a Venmo type thing or like just kind of give a little bit more specific examples? So, you maybe haven't you don't have the specifics, but as hypotheticals.
I'll give you an example, right? Like two of our stablecoins today, USDG, which is Global Dollar, which is this consortium product that is issued on the behalf of Global Dollar Network, which includes Robinhood, Kraken, several others. And then one of our other stablecoins, PYUSD, which is the PayPal stablecoin. Because we are the underlying infrastructure provider for both, we can truly treat those as one-to-one interoperable, right? Because we actually can move the money between the banks ourselves, right? Versus if you have different issuers, I can't actually give you one of, stablecoin A in exchange for stablecoin B until I liquidate stablecoin B and like move the dollars and like actually move the funds. And so it's kind of like this like network of networks, right? If you assume each stablecoin is its own network, and as we start to spin up, we are the issuer of multiple stablecoins, these can all connect to each other. And they themselves start to get network effects. And then on the brokerage side, obviously, it's like, we have a reach of hundreds of millions of users today already through platforms that are using our crypto brokerage as a service product. And the goal is like, how do we bring Hyperliquid, the token, but also its products to those customers that we power?
Okay, got it. And Nick, what about you? 6-month plan out of the gate if you win.
Yeah, so this is maybe getting a little too into the boring details, but like the first 8 to 12 weeks, I think is actually getting this set up, right? So deploying the stable, getting the liquidity pool set up, working with third-party providers, whether it's Rain, MoonPay, or someone else, the dozens of people that have reached out to us to get this ready on day one. Because what we would want to do is light this up across MoonPay's wallet network, Rain's card network and Visa network day one. And then see liquidity pools, on Hyperliquid, so that this is, to Bhau's point, right, just as good as USDC. Like that is going to be the major hurdle. It's going to take a lot of dollars and a lot of money to get that going. But I think, frankly, just based on what we've seen from the community, whether it's us or Paxos, like it should happen relatively seamlessly. And then it's like, okay, how do we actually go beyond, right? Is it getting it set up on other blockchains? Is it other exchanges, right? I think that's going to be a big focus, but really like being able to pay with Hype, like having a USDH card, like there's many things that we've contemplated over the last 24 hours with some of our partners. But I think it's all about making it a first-class citizen in the same way that USDC makes, USDC a first-class citizen everywhere that they operate, right? And working with partners to do so, because like you can't do this alone. And I think there's a lot of people that are eager to be very supportive of USDH, wherever it goes.
All right. So in a moment, we're going to talk a little bit more about the various proposals and, criticisms and commentary. But first, a quick word from the sponsors to make the show possible. Mantle leads the establishment of blockchain for banking as the next frontier. UR is the access layer that transforms Mantle Network into a purpose-built vertical platform, the blockchain for banking, that enables financial services on-chain. UR unifies and vertically aligns Mantle's focus on payments, trading, and assets. MI4, METH protocol, functions FBTC, supported by developer grants, ecosystem incentives, and the industry-leading distribution platform through the UR app, Reward Station, and Bybit launch pool. All economic activity within UR will be captured by Mantle Network to further drive value to token holders and establish its significance in blockchain for banking. Follow Mantle_official to learn more. Back to my conversation with Nick and Bhau. So, listening to you guys talk, here's how I would characterize the Agora proposal. It's sort of like DeFi mullet style, maybe, where there's sort of these on-chain partners that are going to be more like front ends. And then, there's TradFi in the back. It's like, State Street, Van Eck,
it's like the inverse DeFi mullet. Yeah. I think that's right.
Oh, right. Sorry, it's the inverse. You're right. You're so right. And then Bhau, I think about like how you have kind of these more mainstream names that would be like how people would connect to users, but then you also have, the Molecular Labs acquisition with the ties to the L-Hype and WHLP, which sort of is like more squarely, in the Hyperliquid ecosystem. So would you guys agree that those are kind of like the two different ways that you're approaching this?
I think that it's relatively close, right? I would say, both of us have like pretty good institutional bones as well. For us, I think it's thinking about all the partners that we can light up, right? Because we're not as vertically integrated as Paxos, right? We're a much younger company. And so it's thinking through like, okay, who else can actually, maybe to Bo's point earlier, like some folks do want to be incentivized, right? And so even if we operated as, a public good, right? There's on and off ramps or other partners that might see this as a way to get users to their platform for the first time. Right. And maybe offer, feeless transfers and those things as a way to capture users. Right. And that's why I think, MoonPay and some of these folks are so eager to work, reach out to us, is because we don't really compete with them. And we're just a neutral issuer that has the stack that can support something like this.
Yeah. And I just remembered one other bit that I want to ask Bhau about, which is, Agora has this cross-chain component. They have Layer 0 as a partner. But I don't, unless I missed it, I don't feel like I noticed anything like that. Like, you talked about how it would tie to this network of these other stablecoins. But, is that like something
we've
that
been working with Layer 0 since the launch of PYUSD, which was 3 years ago now. So we're deeply integrated with Layer 0. We work with a lot of these players. We're integrated with Rain. And so look, I think all those teams are great. And I would be surprised if there's anyone in the ecosystems that's not working with some of these guys. But we've been working with Layer 0. We work with Chainlink as well for certain products. So, we definitely have cross-chain capabilities. It was something we chose not to highlight in our proposal, as we felt what was most important to the community was kind of sharing kind of our alignment to Hyperliquid as a community, and that's kind of where we focused our proposal on.
Okay. All right. So imagine that your proposal didn't win. If you were to guess why it is that the community, opted for any other proposal, it doesn't have to be one of the two that's being featured here, but just like, why do you think yours didn't win? What would be the weakness that you think would have been one of the reasons? Either one of you can go first.
Yeah, it depends on how spicy we want to get. I think maybe I'll put it this way. If neither of our proposals win, I think it's probably because, there was maybe more of a focus on some of the early, one of the early proposals, or one that was more community oriented, that didn't come from a reputable issuer. And so, I think, and maybe that translates to, if we were to not win, it's probably because someone went with a more community oriented post or group that used, a third party issuer, right? And it wasn't an issuer. Because something actually, a question I got asked in another live stream earlier today, they're like, oh, how have you been involved in the Hyperliquid ecosystem in Agora? And I was like, actually, like, it's kind of funny, right? Like, all like the institutional grade issuers have actually, other than Circle, been blocked out, like up until 6 months ago, because there was really no way to get involved. And so I think, I'm curious, it sounds like Bhau and they had a similar perspective. They're sort of waiting for the right time to get involved, and we figured that this would be a good one. Obviously, they have molecular labs. We haven't acquired any teams, and that definitely makes them closer, I think, to the medal from a team perspective. But if either of us lost, or if we lost, I think it's probably because they went more for someone that was homegrown. But I think there's some drawbacks from that as well.
Yeah, I have seen, I can't remember who tweeted this. So somebody literally was like, oh, maybe it was Ryan Watkins. He was like, actually, does it make more sense to go with, kind of like a Hyperliquid native group? But anyway, Bhau, what about you?
I mean, that's my take too, right? Like, I think, as I'll reiterate, like, Paxos has been the de facto white label stablecoin issuer for a decade, right? The biggest brands go with Paxos. And I think Hyperliquid is already and going to become one of the biggest brands in finance. And, if they are operating that way, I think it would make sense for them to go with someone like us. But if they didn't, and if neither of our proposals won, I kind of agree with Nick. It's like, maybe they're really optimizing towards kind of this like, homegrown team potentially that really isn't doing anything else outside of Hyperliquid, and that's their call, and that's the validator's call. But what I would really push the community for is like, if we're trying to 100x the Hyperliquid ecosystem, we have to think really big, and we have to think about kind of like global distribution, and with players that have done it before at scale.
And then what I will say is like, and if neither of us win, hey, we'll both be involved in the Hyperliquid ecosystem anyways. And so maybe we'll do with AUSD, USDP, or, some other stable coin, right, that we white label. So I think, both of our teams are here for the long term. Obviously, I think both of our teams are excited about being community aligned with the USDH ticker and giving back. But, if another team is chosen, both of us will still be here, I imagine. So.
Yeah, you may not win the ticker, but you might still win top stablecoin on USD. And
it's funny. I think this has become bigger, right, than just the ticker. But it's like in traditional finance, like tickers go for like 9 figures for sure. Having a little bit of insight into that as well. So like there's a lot of brand value to this, and I think both teams are going to be here for the long term, and I think are excited about growing this ecosystem. And I think also like the weekend, like the support of the weekend from a bunch of different people show like a lot of non-issuers that have been outside looking in clearly are as well. And so I think like this whole proposal process has been nothing but a success for Hyperliquid, which is kind of fun to see. And I was kind of joking. I was like, hey, like, look, even if we lose, at least we got, someone else to commit 100%, back to the community. So
I will add there, like, the winner might be decided on Thursday or Saturday or Sunday or wherever it is. But again, like what we have learned time and time again, launching stablecoins is this is a multi-year journey, and execution really matters. So like we'll be happy for whoever wins. I hope it's us. But like, look, you get the ticker, congrats. But like, there's a multi-year journey ahead to win this ecosystem and to be the winning stablecoin. And all I can say is like we're committed to doing that regardless if we have the ticker or not. And so we're excited to compete and have the winning stablecoin in the ecosystem, whether it's called USDH or not.
All right. So I did want to ask you guys about one other criticism that I saw, which I thought was interesting. But I'm not a trader, so maybe I maybe there's some stuff I don't know about this situation. But Dio Casares tweeted that he found it quite concerning that most of the teams that have proposed, stablecoins he called have terrible liquidity. He noted that Paxos's PYUSD has non-zero slippage on relatively small size. I have to remember what that screenshot was. It was like maybe.
So I saw this tweet. This is on. So I would say, maybe in defense of both of us, this is on Ethereum mainnet, where very, very few applications are today.
So you feel like his okay.
Well, mainnet certainly hasn't been a focus for us because it's not really the place where applications have been built since we started this company.
Okay, so you feel like that's the reason.
Yeah,
the screenshots were like terrible.
Oh, terrible. And you could the thing is, right, it's like you can pay for liquidity, right? And I think specifically in this case as well, like the liquidity will come regardless.
Yeah, and thanks, Nick. And I think that's exactly right. Like I would love to see that screenshot for Solana, right? Because between Solana and Paxos and other partners, there's over $100 million of liquidity that have been seeded for PYUSD and USDG over the years there, and I'm pretty sure it's quite tight there. What I also say is you can go find any pool that has terrible slippage, right? To Nick's point, it's like, where are you investing the liquidity in, right? I might have one kind of range on Curve, but it might be something else on Uniswap, and it's because I haven't invested in building up liquidity in one of them. Right. And so it's one of those gotchas where it's like, I could probably go find any pair of any stable coin and be like, look, you have 10% slippage. And it's like, well, you picked, a random pool, or you picked this, or you picked that. And so with that said, though, I understand the desire for the community to have really tight pairs there. And it's something we invest in, and both from our own balance sheet, but also, we have deep relationships with market makers. And we'd work with the community and be like, hey, what are the most important liquidity venues for you guys, right? What do you care about? Where do you care about?
What are the pairs?
Yeah. What are the pairs and where do you want it, right? And we'll go work with them on it, and we'll go work with all our market maker relationships. We'll work with our own balance sheet. Every stable coin we've launched, we've seeded at least $100 million liquidity, right? And so, this is no different, and we'll do that. And it just comes down to where the community wants it and where's the most utility for it.
All right. So let's now talk about some of these other proposals, because there's so many. There's one, from Frax. There's
I'm definitely not caught up, so please don't.
Yeah, I mean, there was just no way for me even to try to do that. But I did see, I saw some spicy comments about some of the other ones. Probably just in discussion forums and stuff like that. But I was curious, out of the other competitors, are there any that you think are strong contenders? Are there any that, you feel like wouldn't be in the best interest of the community for some reason or another? Or are there any particular, things that you think that voters should keep in mind for when they go to make their vote, of what they should be looking for in a proposal, or what should be kind of a red flag or yellow flag? So yeah, you can either name names or not.
Yeah, I'll clock myself to last night, since I've been doing other I've been working today, so I'm not fully caught up on what's been going on in the Discord. I would say obviously community aligned or oriented proposals are interesting, right? Where it's the native teams where all they've built is in Hyperliquid. I think those are interesting and they're compelling and they deserve attention. Obviously I think the community needs to factor in the risks of maybe not using someone with their own infrastructure, but I think those are interesting. But other than those, I don't really see anyone else other than the Paxos guys that I think is worthy of attention. But I could be behind and missing people, so I'll caveat that.
A general comment I'll make is, as people are evaluating these proposals, to really think deeply about who is a neutral infrastructure provider in this scenario. I'll use a completely different example as to why do people use Paxos as crypto brokerage as a service product? Coinbase has the same offering. Coinbase has it. Why don't people use Coinbase? Coinbase is Coinbase, right? Well, the reason is because the people that integrate this product see Coinbase as a competitor. They're fighting for end users, right? And so there's a conflict of interest there. And Paxos's position has always been to be a neutral infrastructure provider. And so what I would encourage, folks that are looking at these proposals and thinking about them, for the other providers, are they neutral? Are they neutral in terms of how they position themselves against Hyperliquid? And are they really going to have the Hyperliquid ecosystem's best interest in mind in perpetuity? right? For example, Paxos doesn't have a blockchain, doesn't intend to issue a blockchain, right? We are neutral in that sense. And so that is the thing that gives me the most pause for anyone else, right? It's, again, if the goal of this is to have a very community aligned proposal, how do we make sure the provider of arguably the most important asset in an ecosystem, which is a stablecoin, is neutral and aligned in perpetuity?
Yeah, I think that's right. Like, no one should be using a provider that is a competing blockchain.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything that I didn't ask either of you that you feel like should be said on this topic?
No, but I think like I would add, like this has been, I think, obviously, Bhau and I were very busy this weekend. We were joking earlier that our fiancés weren't too happy with us yesterday, but I think this has been like the first time that like governance has been like fun in what feels like years, and I think frankly, like the competitiveness of the proposals is going to deliver like a really awesome outcome for the Hyperliquid community, regardless of what happens. And so like it's been fun. I feel like it's kind of like captured a little bit of the magic of crypto again, which is like, it's been fun. And so like we're excited to see where this goes. We're going to keep working and trying to improve our proposal. I'm sure Bhau will as well. But it's been fun, and I think a little bit of the magic of crypto is coming back. So it's good.
Yeah, it's really funny actually, because I can't remember when this was, like a few months ago. We were actually going to run a story like our DAO's dead, because it was like the other side
not
DAO,
Hyperliquids.
yeah, like the Bored Ape DAO disbanded, and then Jupiter's DAO went on pause, and I can't remember, there were others where we were like, we should do a story, and then we actually never, or whoever was working on that didn't get to finish it. But the point is, like, I actually was thinking the same thing. I was like, this is a vote where like people actually care. And like, it's not just going to be like a quiet little sleepy thing that happens over in the corner that the whales dominate or whatever. I mean, the whales might still dominate, but
yeah. And I would add to that, right, where it's like, I hope this reinvigorates the desire to like have public debate and discussion over what's the best solution, right? I think Sam from Frax was saying this earlier today. It was like, hey, like the Mega ETH thing just came out today. I think they're doing something with Athena. That's awesome. I'm happy for those guys, but like at the same time, like I would have loved to hear about that, right? I would have loved to talk about how we could help them, right? And it'd be amazing to get into a world where we can do like less backroom deals and like be out in the open, talk about the merits, and like I think it gets the best product for the ecosystem, best product for the end users, but also as a company, getting the feedback in the open is amazing, right? I've gotten so much quick product feedback over the last couple of days, which is, may take us weeks or months to get that quick iterative feedback on what we're doing. And so I think it's a win-win-win, and I hope more ecosystems do this in the future.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, hopefully we'll have some people who are managing those types of things, some BD people who are like, maybe we should make this open.
Yeah, let's PvP all the competitors together.
Yeah. Then I can do more live streams called such and such throwdown. We had fun with the new on this one. All right, you guys. Well, this has been super great chatting with you both. Thank you so much for coming on Unchained.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Laura.
Unchained is produced by Laura Shin with help from Matt Pilchard, Juan Aranovich, Margaret Curia, and Pam Majumdar. Thanks for listening.